Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Earwax. It's Colin, and today we're going to be going over my top 5 punk albums of all time. Now, a couple ground rules before we get into this. All of these albums are what I consider like just straight up punk albums. So I'm not including any like ska, I'm not including any pop punk, I'm not including some like later era hardcore, which I feel like gets closer into like the metal category than like actual punk. And for the most part, these are all albums that I do think are pretty impactful just on the punk genre in general. Now, that being said, there's a couple things I need to get out of the way right off the bat. First and foremost, you have to take into consideration my upbringing. Like, I'm 32. I was raised in like the lower end suburbs of Southern California for the most part, especially during these formative years. So, skate punk definitely had a lot of influence on me when I was younger. Also, again, these are just my personal favorites. These are the ones that are like the most important and impactful to me, not necessarily the ones that I think are like the greatest punk albums of all time or the most influential or the most important, though there are certainly some of those on this list. And so, because of that, I'm going to do something a little bit different than I normally do on these lists. And I'm actually going to do 6 honorable mentions. So, the first 3 I think are albums that I have to at least give a nod to because punk wouldn't be what it is without these 3 albums. And that is going to be the self titled debuts from Ramones and The Clash, as well as Fun House by The Stooges. All great albums, all incredibly influential and monumental to punk as a genre, but like not ones that I grew up necessarily listening to. I didn't get into some of them until I was a little bit older, and definitely not ones, even like within those respected bands' discographies, that I listen to frequently. The next 3 are my personal honorable mentions, so ones that are like a little bit more important to me, but again, just didn't quite make the cut for one reason or another. The first honorable mention for that is going to be Bad Brains' self-titled album. This is an album that I didn't get into until college, which is why it's not like in my top 5. But it is a fantastic album. It's a groundbreaking album. It's arguably one of the best, not just like hardcore punk albums, but punk albums and rock albums ever written. It's absolutely incredible. If you haven't listened to it, go check it out. But again, I didn't really listen to it or get into it until like my later years, as opposed to some of these other albums. And that's why it's just an honorable mention for me. The next honorable mention is going to be Bad Religion's The Process of Belief. So this is not even like what I would consider their best album. That's probably Suffer. But this is my personal favorite Bad Religion album. And it almost made the top 5, but it like just barely didn't. Punk was my first love. This is one of the albums that like really helped me fall in love with it as a genre. But one that like I don't know. I think I just don't listen to front to back as often as some of these other albums, and that's again why it's just an honorable mention. And then the last honorable mention for me is going to be Caution by Hot Water Music. Again, similar to Process of Belief, this is one of the albums that got me into punk right off the bat, and I listened to it pretty frequently. And again, it just barely did not make the cut for the top 5. But all fantastic albums. Trusty Chords is probably one of my favorite songs of all time. So again, Caution like could be right there, but I ultimately decided to put these next 5 albums above it. So without further ado, let's get into number 5. Number 5 is going to be AFI's The Art of Drowning. So this is one of my all-time favorite records. I think it's I don't know if it's AFI's best record. Like Sing the Sorrow makes a strong argument for that, but it's their most like accessible record from their true punk side, their true punk roots. You've got The Days of the Phoenix was like the big single off this, but the Nephilim is probably my favorite track. Ever in a Day, like just this whole Sacrifice Theory, this whole album front to back is so good. One of the best, I think, just like horror punk albums out there, and really just shows like how much raw talent Davey Havok and the rest of the band have. And I love this album so much. AFI was like I don't want to say the first punk band that I ever got really into, but they were one of the first. And this is like, I feel like their last true punk record before they started experimenting with different genres on Sing the Sorrow, December Underground, and then everything that came after that. Number 4 is going to be Sing Sing Death House by the Distillers. So similar to AFI, the Distillers are one of the first punk bands I ever really got into. I think I was like 11 or 12, and I got this compilation album called Punkorama Volume 8, I believe. And I Am a Revenant was on there, and I fell in love. Like I absolutely obsessed over the Distillers for a couple of years. I know Coral Fang is the album that gets more recognition, but I do prefer Sing Sing Death House, not just for I Am a Revenant, but for City of Angels, the title track, and again, just like this whole track list front to back. It's fast, it's in your face, and for a while, this was like the most intense punk album I'd ever listened to with a female vocalist, and I always really appreciate that. I think Brody Dale is incredible. Yeah, and if you haven't listened to this album, you got to go check it out. Again, it's probably one of my favorite albums of all time, not just like within the punk genre, but just in general. Number 3 is going to be Descendants, Milo Goes to College. This is kind of the outlier in the list, where this is not an album I was listening to in like middle school, which like most of these albums were. This is an album that I didn't get into, ironically enough, until college. But when I did finally listen to it, like I became obsessed. Now, the majority of the Descendants discography is absolutely incredible, but this debut album is always going to hold a special place in my heart. You've got Catalina, you've got M16, you've got Parents, but like again, this album just front to back, it's so good, it's so eclectic. It's, one of the earliest examples of what would eventually become pop punk, but it is still a true blue punk record, and it's absolutely incredible. And they deserve all of the hype that they get, not just from this album, but like throughout their entire career. Number 2 is going to be Earth AD / Wolf's Blood by Misfits. I kind of went back and forth between which Misfits album I was going to put on this. I mean, it could either be this or Walk Among Us. I think they're both like strong contenders to be at this spot. But I ultimately went with this one because I think it's just such a good example of like what punk can be. I mean, this whole album front to back is like just under 15 minutes. It's fast, it's in your face, it's angry, but it also is like super groovy. There's some great melodies to it, and it's just a killer album. I love the Misfits. They're one of my favorite bands of all time. You can't tell by the poster back there. Also on the back of my battle vest here, my main patch is a Misfits patch. But yeah, I absolutely love this album. You've got Devil Lock, you've got Earth AD, you've got Bloodfest, Hellhound. Like this, it's such a good, just fast, in your face punk album. And while the Misfits have definitely been accused of being like gimmicky, or I don't want to say sellouts, but they merchandise the hell out of their shit. At their core, like their first few albums are some of the greatest punk albums of all time, hands down. And my number 1 punk album of all time is Dead Kennedys' Fresh Fruits for Rotting Vegetables. I first discovered Dead Kennedys in middle school by seeing their logo as a patch on someone else's battle vest. And like them, like the Misfits, even like my obsession with death, all started a very similar way. Like I saw their logo, thought it was cool, and then as like a 12, 13-year-old decided to illegally download their music and listen to it. So with this album in particular, the first time I heard it, I didn't quite get it, but something just kept pulling me back. And the more and more I listened to it, the more I fell in love. It is, in my opinion, one of the most important, one of the best hardcore punk albums of all time. I think, the main single off of this, their big single, Holiday in Cambodia, is arguably one of the best written punk songs ever. It might take the number 1 spot for me, hands down. And then you've got obviously like Kill the Poor, California Uber Alice. Their cover of like Viva Las Vegas is absolutely incredible. It's just like, it's just such a good album. It's all over the place. It's chaotic, but it's also melodic. It's something that just sticks with you. Each listen, you just, I feel like, end up liking it more and more and more. And it's not just, again, I think, like, one of the greatest punk albums of all time. I think it's just one of the greatest political albums of all time, rock albums of all time, and just, like, arguably one of the most underrated albums of all time, because I don't feel like there's a lot of people that don't listen to punk on a daily basis that listen to this album, and they should, because it's absolutely incredible. It's a holiday in Cambodia. It's tough, kid, but it's alive. So that's going to be it for me, guys. Thanks so much for watching. As always, if you could please like, comment, subscribe, leave a comment down below. Let me know what your top 5 punk albums are of all time. Again, don't come at me, gatekeepers. This is just my personal list. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with my selections. And at the end of the day, the more people that are listening to this music, the better. So that's going to be it for me. As always, I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.